I have empathy for individuals who turn to it. I understand the reasons why, and I don't have a judgment in the sense of like a demeaning judgment. I have a judgment and opinion of that, but I don't look down on that, I would say.
Yeah.
And then I also understand why, just kind of societal developmentally, and the evolution of humanity and society, why religion and mythos was so important and how it helped develop.
We have to give it its respect.
I understand completely. I think we have reached a moment where I think a lot of our tension is just societally, a lot of individual like discontent is a tension between our inability, a tension caused by our inability to let go of outdated dogma and mythos.
We don't need it anymore. We don't need it anymore. We can do better.
Right. We need the good aspects of it. Let's keep it. Let's keep the community.
Absolutely.
Let's keep the
absolutely.
I
the
think
goodwill that it tries to do.
It tries to do.
It tries to.
I think mentorship, I don't think is something I know it can be negative a lot in religion, but I think the idea of mentorship in a societal sense is important to like pass down like ideas and thoughts, but it doesn't have to be mentorship because if I don't, my imaginary friend in the sky is going to take something away from me. We don't need that anymore. That's what we don't need anymore. Right? And so...
Well, I love that. I love that. That is a good point, George. Okay.
This has been Good Points with George.
Good Points with George. Ow.
Okay. All right. Should we get into my personal stuff now?
Yes. Okay. Yes, let's get into it, George. Go.
All right. So all that great stuff said, until last week, or a couple weeks back, I would be very hesitant to call Mormonism, not very. I think a while back, and
you would just avoid it.
I would avoid it.
You would avoid
exactly.
saying the words Mormonism is a cult.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of like me avoiding saying the words "I am gay" until I was 18. I just avoided it when it was it was just an inconvenient truth that I didn't need to face until I got in front of the mirror at 18 and I had to go, okay, you can't do what you're going to be doing if you're and not admit you're gay. I just
no. I mean, hey,
is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of why I want to talk through this too. Once again, like I said, I think I still have some hesitation.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I honestly, I want to have that conversation because I think that's so interesting and such a good one. And I don't want to just go, it's a cult.
Right.
Do you not? Yeah. No, I want to talk through it because I think so many people are where you have been and where I have been. And let's talk about that because I've been in those spaces. I've been there.
Right.
I feel that a lot of people are there in some ways. Yeah. Okay.
It's part of the process, the deconstruction, the reconstruction, and it's very phase driven. And something interesting somebody mentioned to me the other day is that like the things that lead a lot of people from like leaving Mormonism end up being the same, and the trajectory and phases of phasing out of religion end up being super similar. And I think that a big part of the reason is a point that they made is because of the cult aspects. Like, of course, the same things, if you're being programmed in the same way, the same things are going to break that programming.
Yeah.
I know that's, again, like to talk about my hesitation, speaking about it that way made me feel kind of weird, like talking about it that way. But it's true. Like, that is the case. That we're going to follow similar kind of paths of the things that that start the deconstruction and then the phases of that. So like, I always talk about like the new Mormon phase, right? Where I was like, I'm not going to be like other Mormons, right? I am going to respect gay people. I'm going to, respect my wife and give her equal power in our home. Like, I'm edgy, dude.
Are
like,
so new age, bro.
Right. But like, honestly, everyone
does that too.
Right.
I went through that too. I have friends who went through that too.
Right.
Yes, and I've seen many cases. I think at this point, I felt so confident to be talking about these things on this podcast because I've literally been through this process myself and with multiple friends, multiple people I know. I've either helped them through it or watched them go through the same things. It's just everybody's on a different timeline as far as how long it takes. Some people speed run it. Some people take hold on for dear life and do not want to let it go.
Yeah.
But eventually it just happens. It's very yes.
I feel like I was like a really, really gradual and then just like off the cliff.
Yeah.
Really, once I was ready,
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is part of that continued processing, deprogramming, and I think talking through it is really helpful just for me to make like a very intentional choice about how I want to move forward and relate to ideas I've been avoiding, right? Like looking at this, because then it goes to how I, a couple of episodes ago, like I did a temple handshake on the podcast and I had like a turn in my stomach. Yeah. And so I kind of, I just want to talk through those sort of things.
So tell me that, because isn't that funny how it's still programmed in you to feel like you're doing something bad.
Yes. Oh.
By showing that temple handshake. Because they told you that this was an atrocity against God to do this, right? Or what's the consequence? What did they?
I mean, the old consequences were slit throats. And
your bowels were going to come out. They
cleaned it up in the 70s.
Yeah, but can you imagine having made that promise?
Right. Oh, 100%.
Having made that vow to God and then coming out of it, and you're so scared to, even though you don't believe it anymore, still that fear is in your mind, even subconsciously.
Yeah.
When those things come up, that you're like, oh, I can't even show that outside the temple because I still have this like fear programmed into me.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know if it's fear. Was it fear? Was it what were you feeling?
For me, and I think I mentioned this when I was just talking about my experience in the church, like going through my story when I was like a believing member and like starting to question and moving through, it is a people-pleasing thing.
Okay.
It's really concern about, my family.
And not wanting to offend.
Okay.
Wanting to have a little bit of reverence and respect.
Right. Like, and this is, let's get into this. Let's talk through this a little bit. Yeah. Because, so with the temple stuff, and then this relates to the cult thing as well, right? People that I really love and respect are still members of the church.
Yes.
They're still believing members of the church.
Yes.
And I want... And they hold these things sacred. They believe those things. They believe that I made this promise. Well, not even that they believe that I did it, but I just know that they believe that they have done that, and it's something that's important to them.
Right, right.
And I think it's good to be mindful, but I am trying to find that boundary for myself and for what, like, talking about it, talking through my experience, and not having that feel like I'm attacking them. But I do think that is indoctrination. But,
well, that's the thing, is that the idea that you're attacking them for that, with that. So I personally think that there's a weighing here too, because there can be a greater response or a greater feeling of, does it help to break the idea that this cult-like magic, rune magic, special cult ceremony thing has any power? Because I think that's part of it, is that if someone can see you brave enough to say, look at how much this doesn't have power.
Yeah.
Right? That can help somebody break the power that religion holds over them. Yeah. And the sinister power that religion holds over them.
Yeah.
And that, I think, can be greater than the offense of somebody who you love.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I weigh it.
Yeah.
When I look at religion, I see myself as 100% irreverent at this point. 100%. 100%. 100%. I do not believe in people's offense when it comes to their religion. Am I going to go in their face? Like, would I tell you to go to your mom and dad and go put it in their face? Look how silly this ritual is, or how no, we're not asking you to do that. But in this context, yes, they might see it. Even so, my mom and dad, or people that I know that people that I've known before that have been in the religion that I've been in are going to see what I'm talking about. And I love them and I respect them, but I think it's far more important to help break the idea that this is some sacred thing, that this has some type of magical power, that this has some type of, that it needs to have a hold on my brain where I have to revere it. Yeah. I think that's much more powerful to break that and to help people understand it's not that serious. It's not that deep, bro. That's my phrase for 2025. Maybe not the bro. It's not that deep, sis. It's not that deep. They, them. My friend.
Zem, right?
Zem. It is not that deep. It's really not that deep. And that's what I mean. For me, that's my perspective on it.
I love that. I think that's a really good, ethical and mindful approach to that, right? The idea of the outcomes that you're looking to put out, and weighing kind of what it's going to lead to, like you said, like breaking like that mysticism, that strength of that.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I think that's I really like that.
Well, and I know that you want to help people.
Right.
And I know that you want to help people get better mentally and get better. And I think part of that might be understanding yourself. And that's what we're doing right here, is understanding how much religion can mentally affect you.
Yes.
And laying that out, you can see, I mean, it demands this reverence and respect. Why? Yeah. Why does it demand this? Because some people said so. Because they said there's a big God in the sky. Because it's been made a big deal in the Zeitgeist. And maybe you need to find that line. Yeah, we all need to find that line. Right. I'm not going to every person like we talked about in your first. You're not going to in your therapy practice. You're not going to the people that are coming to you for therapy and going, oh, first of all, we need to make sure that you know that whatever religion you believe in, that's fake. And it's
throw
wrong.
That out.
Throw that out. No, you respect, you respect that, and you help them where they need it. So yeah, and then with this podcast and what we're doing here, I think it does demand a little bit of us standing up and saying, okay, you know what? If we're going to help people here work through their deconstruction, then that's part of it.
For sure.
At least that's how I'm seeing it.
No, yeah, and I think like authenticity is like a buzzword almost, but I do think that like going back to like going to therapy side of things, like especially leaving religion, I think the big thing is just learning to trust yourself, right? Return to trusting yourself as the arbiter of values, arbiter of just passions and all those different things in your life. And so that even just includes, like tuning into throwing off all this other stuff I've been told, like the sacredness of the temple and, the consequences in these things. Like, what do I think about that, right? And how do I want to move through it? And I think ultimately I'll come down probably a little less fiery than where you're at. I think
I know. No, that's what you're here to be. Yeah, and I like that. Yeah, I like that. There's a good dichotomy here too.
I'm here for it. I surround myself with fire. I feel like I love it.
You like the warmth.
That's right. And but I think I think I'll keep moving through. I do have. So going back to even like calling it a cult, right?
Yeah.
I just have a lot of people who are still like in it, and I think like a term I've used before is like suburban cult. It's like it's a suburban cult.
Kind of soften the cult word,
right? Which I think is what I'm more so saying there now, like especially now, like it's just like or what that really speaks to, I guess, is just the tactics that are utilized in order to maintain a cult past its initial leader that died, right? Joseph Smith dies, the cult moves to the west, tries to make its own fucking state.
Yeah.
The practices polygamy, the army's fucking coming.
Yeah.
So then they get rid of polygamy and become a state and then just make that state their colony, right? That's a cult.
That's definitely a cult.
But through like the getting rid of polygamy and eventually giving black men the priesthood, emphasis on only men.
Right.
They've just maintained. They've clipped things back where they've needed to, so that it can continue, but are still using those same tactics.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. I think that's even more sinister, is this idea that it's trying to veil itself in this non-aggressive,
right? It allows
non-violent. I mean, we're not dangerous.
Unassuming,
we're not. We're not dangerous. We're pretty chill. We're pretty normal.
We're cool guys.
Yeah, we're cool guys. We just believe in 7 layers of heaven or whatever, and
only 3.
Okay, only 3. I love that only married couples can get to the top one. That is so funny to me.
That's a VIP lounge.
Oh, that's a VIP lounge only for the married couples.
That's right.
I mean, what about people that are celibate for Jesus? What about Paul?
Then they're not living.
Paul didn't get to the top tier of heaven.
Happened. Here's what. Listen, you don't get it. Paul died. So he took his name into a temple and married him to other random people who are also dead. I'm just kidding. I don't know if they did that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you were telling me like canon. I was about to.
I mean, they baptized there's a whole like Mormon story that the founding fathers appeared to one of the prophets in the temple.
Yeah.
And so they like did all their works, like all like George Washington is a baptized Mormon.
Yeah.
Other founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. I don't know.
That weren't originally Mormons, but they were.
That's the baptism for the dead that we talked about.
Oh my goodness!
That's one of the things they do.
So they could baptize me as a Mormon after I'm dead.
Oh, if they get their way, they will. Yeah,
absolutely.
But it'll give you the opportunity to accept it in the next life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I just love that. I mean, because how many of the disciples did not get married?
I bet a lot of them.
They were Jesus's harem, but we can talk about that on another episode. I'm just saying, Jesus, a 33-year-old man, goes and gets these 12 young men to follow him, and they're spending all their time together, and John was his most beloved, who he held in his lap. Come on, y'all. Come on. What do you think? I know what they were doing. It's got to be obvious. None of them they didn't get married. They died for Jesus. I mean, I don't know. Okay, all right. That's not what this episode is. Let's get on to your hesitation in calling it a cult.
One more piece of that.
Okay.
So there's the obviously, and like going back, I think like you were saying, like the sinister aspect of it, and like putting on these really like honestly bland clothes, just really like Mormonism today, allows like people like me that leave to be like, oh, it's not a cult.
Yeah.
Right. Which is also another unfortunate, I guess not.
I also think that there's an aspect of Stockholm syndrome, and I don't mean this in an offense.
That's kind of my next point. Yeah.
I talked about this. I don't remember if I said it on this podcast because we have so many conversations during the week outside of these microphones, but calling my own grooming in the church.
Yeah.
And I have this hesitation to be like, well, he's a good guy. He didn't mean anything by it. Yep. He was just, it wasn't like he was back there going, but there are plenty of moments where it was definitely, let me set this up.
Yeah.
And I, for a long time, would still defend him in my own mind, defend him to my family and my parents, and be like, he means to do good and all this stuff. And it's the Stockholm syndrome, and even being able to call it grooming took me until I saw that documentary, the Nickelodeon one with with Drake Bell.
Mm-hmm.
And when Drake Bell started talking about his experience, it was word for word until it got to the physical sexual abuse was me.
Wow.
Was word for word me. And I'm lucky it didn't get to the physical sexual abuse.
Yeah.
But there were definitely setups for chances for that. And definitely moments I've looked back and thought about it since where there were setups for, if I'd have said yes to what he was proposing, he would have taken it and run with it into all of that. And I just had to realize, I called my brother right after I saw that documentary. I said, Martin, I was groomed. And he's like, I've been waiting for you to want to talk about
that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, I've been waiting for you to talk to me about this. He said, I never wanted to bring it up because I just didn't know when you were, if you were ever okay with talking about that. And we talked about it for a long time. And, but I feel like there's a similar thing there where it happens with religion and the religion that you come out of, where you start to realize, and then you're like, oh, well, there's good people in that religion. How can I call it a cult? It's not like they're back there in the back room going, but there are plenty of moments where that does happen, where the sinister things happen.
Yeah, and I think. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, I'm full open book at this point.
Yeah. I appreciate it. And I totally. And I think for me, I think along similar lines, definitely in the self-invalidation realm as well.
Yeah.
For me, it was a lot of. I know I talked in the beginning when we started talking. Is I know I have a lot of quote unquote protective factors, being a straight white man in a Christian religion in Utah, right?
Sure.
So I recognize that, and I think at times I can invalidate my own experience because it was not as, I don't want to say of course it can be hard for a straight white man. It wasn't as oppressive for you. But I didn't have that. So I think it allows me. For one, it allows me, and I've mentioned this, to have a more naturally neutral perspective on religion, because my experience, although I had disconnection, I tend to verge on invalidating how hard it was for me, right? But it was more the personal experience of it rather than direct trauma or abuse or those things. And so I think that invalidation of my own experience makes me be it feels dramatic to say that.
Yes.
But that's also me ignoring the experience of so many other people.
Right.
But,
absolutely.
But it's so easy for me. It's been so easy for me to do that, to connect with my own experience and be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It can't be a cult. Right. But that's one, invalidating myself, and two, invalidating the experiences of other people that I know and have had those experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, absolutely. Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that.
So I think those were, for me, the big things that I have maintained my hesitation, right? Maintained the avoidance is the
it's just so easy to do, but also invalidating yourself. Yeah. And invalidating your own feelings, I think, is similar to what I've done to myself.
Yes. Oh, I got something to say.
Yeah.
I just reminded of this the other day.
Okay.
Just like in the idea of self-invalidation and the training you receive to do that.
Yes.
Around the time that I was going on my mission, there was a guy, one of the apostles in the presidency of the church. Dieter F. Uchtdorf is his name.
Okay.
Mr. Uchtdorf.
Wow. What a name.
I think he's still alive.
Dieter F. Uchtdorf.
We were all like, you had to like have a favorite apostle.
There's so many jokes in there. / also badass name.
It is, yeah. You kind of had to have a favorite apostle. Or like pretend you did. So he was mine.
Oh goodness, of course.
I don't know. But he did this talk. It was like I remember it being really big, just like throughout the church. I think I may have already been on my mission. It was around the time. It's like around the time when I did like start pretending I actually liked the church.
Yeah.
But he had this talk that was doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith.
Oh my God.
And it was huge.
Yeah.
And it's just exactly that. The moment you have a thought
That's
that may
doubt,
be authentic to yourself, but does not align with what we have said, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Just done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, if you have faith, you keep going, bro.
But that is so sinister.
So sinister.
Because what it does is it teaches people to not trust their own thoughts, not have autonomy in life, and not be able to make their own decisions. And that goes far beyond just what happens in the religion. That goes far beyond that into their own lives. And now your life is being controlled by what prophet says, by what Bible says.
Yeah.
And of course they'll celebrate that in the religion. You're doing the right thing if you're letting your life be controlled by that. And this is the right way.
Yeah.
Yet we're talking about Bronze Age ideas of what life should be, what the world should look like. I mean, if that's what you want, okay. But I have to imagine that there are people who want to make their own decisions in life.
Right.
And who feel that having a life that is theirs has to be important to somebody, some other people, not just me.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. I don't want to be a cookie cutter drone. I have never wanted to be that. And that's exactly what religion is made for. It's made for cookie cutter drones. And that's no offense or not trying to say that that's everybody that's in it, but that's what you're in. If you're in it, that's what you're signing up for.
I don't know how you could deny that religion is trying to stamp down individuality.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody can deny that.
I don't know how you could. And I think like Mormonism does a lot to try to give you the idea of
agency, again, this is the manipulation. This is the twisting of the truth.
Yeah.
Where you're actually the most you when you are not yourself.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's again that twisted logic. Yeah. It's that twisted logic. I'm going to come back to that a million times because I remember. I mean, it was just so strong growing up. Almost every sermon was that twisted logic. I mean, even Jesus even used it. The least of you are the greatest in heaven.
Yeah.
I don't know how sinister I think that verse is, but definitely where preachers have taken it from there.
Yes.
is very twisted from my point of view, twisted and wrong and sinister.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's very obvious. I mean, even I think I've mentioned that there's a scripture in Matthew about, even the very elect will be led away in the last days.
Sure.
Right? And this whole idea of, I mean, why else would that be in the scriptures other than to hang over people.
A chance to hang it over you. Yeah.
Like, what else is
Shouldn't
that
you
for?
feel? Yeah. Yes.
You know
yes.
what I mean?
Yes. To feel guilt and shame and whatever else for having to be one of those that is being led astray by the devil.
Because you can, in one turn, you can tell somebody they're the greatest in the world. They're the very elect.
Yeah,
and
but
if
you're
they do
also
anything that you don't agree with, they're nothing. They're Satans. They're Satans, who is the worst thing on the world, right?
Absolutely.
All in like the efficiency. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the fucking efficiency. Get that all done in like 10 words.
I know. I mean, they're good at it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
They're good at that. That's what I mean by religion taught me emotional intelligence, because it taught you a sinister side of it.
Yeah.
But at least I knew when someone was trying to do that to me.
Yeah.
And now I know when someone's trying to do that to me, and I don't take that shit for 1 second. Nobody's gonna be able to do that to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the one right here. Been there, done that. Not anymore. There are things I want to say about what these religions and why and what they do, what they have you do. But I want to do it in the bite. In the context of the bite model.
I think we're getting to a good.
Before we get to the bite model,
okay. I also have a sidebar. Before
I just wanted to close it up.
Okay.
What we were talking about when we were talking about your feelings about calling it a cult.
Yeah.
I think calling it a cult is relatively. I mean, obviously, you're willing to do that now.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some other things. Where we don't have to spit in the face of people who are humans, who are either trapped in this religion, if you want to say it that way, or people that believe this religion or it means a lot to them. I think about my mom. I love my mom so much. I'm not here to go draw an upside down pentagram in front of her and be like, look, see, I'm worshiping the devil. I don't do that stuff because it's not necessary. I don't need to go and shock
and you worship
her in
privately
that way.
Anyway.
Oh, of course, right. Shh. Don't let the religious know I'm actually a Satan worshiper, and that's all this podcast is Satan
if that's not
trying
in the comments already, right?
They don't know I'm secretly working for the Church of Satan. I do love that. When we get Jace on this podcast at some point, he's very much against the whole making a mockery of Satanism. But I do want to go over Satanism. I want to go over satanic panic because it is one of the points of offense in religion that I definitely do not revere, and I don't mind spitting in the face of.
Okay.
Is satanic panic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love. First of all, I think it's hilarious. It has been, the stuff I've witnessed in my own church growing up, and I don't know what you've witnessed. I know you've witnessed some stuff, right?
It was more like, I just remember more so like Beyonce's a Satan worshiper. Like that,
Beyonce?
Like, truly. Just like, I just remember being a kid and being like, they can't all be Satan worshipers.
I know, right? Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
There is a whole episode I want to do on that. It's cooking. It's brewing.
Okay, cool. I love it.
But yeah, we don't have to spit in the face of people that believe in religions, but also I do think it is helpful to declaw religion in a lot of ways, because there's this all bark, no bite, and religion will bark at you all day, but it can't bite. It has no teeth.
Yeah.
And I think showing that is powerful and helpful. So going forward, I would hope that that's what we can do.
For sure.
The handshake, I wanted to ask about that specifically because you mentioned that one, stuff in the temple. I want to ask about that because to me that does declaw.
Yeah, I get that.
When you, it's as if I were to take a witch's spell book and started saying the spells and showed how not powerful they were, or started quoting some demonic Latin, and you can realize how silly the mental power that's given to it is, and you can let that go.
Yeah.
And letting that go is a big part of deconstruction.
For sure.
So, I may be snarky about it, and I may be I may be a little bit of psh about it. But also I that's why I have a problem with people's offense towards those things, is because we can do better. We can be better. So I just wanted to put a pin in that. Is I want to commit that I don't want to spit in the face of anybody.
Right. Yeah.
But I also want to give my mindset behind some of those things. And also, it is interesting. It's interesting to see what we hesitate for.
For sure. Yeah. I want to make sure. I want to keep pointing it out. I want to keep because it's helpful for me. I really appreciate your perspectives on this and just the way you put that between, like I said, kind of like the ethical weighing of it.
Sure.
And also just the demystification.
Would that be it?
Sure, I love it. Demystification. I like it.
All right. Hey, we're putting it in the lexicon. Call up Webster.
Webster. I think I really love that. I think for me, the biggest thing I take away from this conversation and from just this reflection is just definitely letting myself off the hook.
Yeah.
Right. Relieving some of that. Holding on that I was doing, holding on and just kind of bracing, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like around like handshaking and those things. Cause I believe in, when we talk about the spirit filling me, when I hear truth, I feel I agree completely with the things you are saying and the perspectives, right? I think ultimately as I move forward, I'm going to continue to, turn over my lines when it comes to not necessarily I was gonna say when it comes to taking my family or people I care about into account.
I mean, you always want to when it comes to if you're looking at that person and you're directly and you're directly talking to that person, and you're directly doing something involved or to that person. Of course, you want to take them into consideration. You want to take your love and respect in consideration. I also think I think respecting somebody is being honest with them too.
True, 100%.
And I've been honest when my dad has brought up conversations. He's the one that brings up conversations out of my two parents more often. I'm not going to bring it up if he doesn't bring it up, but when he brings it up, I'm going to be fully honest.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hold back because I respect him so much that he deserves the truth as much as I would want him to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
I would not want him to sugarcoat something for me. I'm sorry. When have I ever been that person to want someone to sit there and water it down so that I can digest, so that I feel okay about it? Give me the truth. Yeah. I want the truth. Yeah. I want to know so that I can be better, so that I can have the full truth. And my dad always respected me with that, and I will always respect him with that.
Yeah.
I also think about what would I have appreciated as a child having someone, if I were looking up to somebody, what would I want them to be honest? I would want them to be fully honest with me. I would not want them to trick me or to skirt around something that that would not give me full autonomy and power over my life, right? Where I would want them to be honest with me. I would want to know, because I've always wanted to know what's really powerful, what's really going to work. If I pour baking soda in vinegar, that's going to explode. If I pour sugar into vinegar, it's not, right? Or salt or some other powdery thing. So I want to know what's really going to work.
Yeah.
I don't want the sugar-coated version. I want the most potent, powerful version. And I think a brave, upstanding, noble person, if you want to put those words on it,
bro,
would want the same. Want the same.
Yeah.
And I can coddle a little bit when it comes to the religious people that are in my life when I'm face to face with them, but I never want to coddle just in general.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that that's helpful when it comes to helping people, when it comes to telling them the truth. You know, I mean, you've worked with mentally ill people, which you probably need to, you know, maybe consider that for. But I mean, if you're not a mentally ill person, if you have control over yourself and you're a thinking mind and you want to be a proper person in this world, you would want the truth, I would think.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. Yeah.
That's my thoughts on that.
Drop the mics. Drop them both. No, I appreciate that. No, I appreciate, I think everything you said there was spot on.
Right, okay.
I think maybe it's another conversation, another part of this conversation, because I want to get to the bite model.
Yeah.
It's just,
absolutely.
it is, that is coming to my mind that I think about quite often is just the way that religion and, you know, the people that I do care about and who still have like the dogma and the beliefs, the way that like steals their ability to engage with me, right?
It's
and
sad.
Talk to them. It is sad, right?
We talked about this last episode too.
Yeah.
It's so hard to have an authentic connection with somebody.
Yeah.
It really does that.
Or just even like talk through this about how like, you know, even, you know, thinking
because the
like,
only time you can talk about the temple is when you're in that little room and you can't talk.
Right. Like I'd love to have a conversation about why I think it's okay that I share these things or why I'm doing it for myself or the processing I've done, but I don't know that that's possible.
Well, what a disservice to you and to everyone who has to go through that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's get into the bite model
okay,
now
all right.
figure out what they're doing to make that happen. All right?
I like this. Let's go, George.
Let's go. The bite model.
Are we fired up or what?
We're fired up. We're getting in. We're tearing them down. We've done our niceties. We've been nice for however long we've been talking.
We're trying.
We're doing really well.
I mean, we're keeping. These episodes we've done so far, we've been pretty nice.
We have been.
I have not been particularly.
Nice
when I first got out of religion, I was.
You were coming out hot.
I had the teeth out.
Yeah.
I had the teeth out.
Yeah.
So I've come a long way.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about anger after leaving.
Oh, I love that. All right, George. You're going to lead this. Help me out. Yeah, help me out. Where do we start with this?
Let's flash back. So Stephen Hassan, like I said before, he's the one that proposed this model or these different criteria for a high demand religion or a group or cult and just the tactics that they utilize in order to control, right? And so the BITE model is an acronym standing for behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotion control. And so he has this list of, I don't even know, we're not going to go through each of them, but different like examples or tactics used in those different areas that these religions, these
I wonder if any of these sound familiar to anyone watching this.
Right.
Let's see.
So yeah, this again is just another model of like these controlling religions or groups. And so I think it's a good model. I like it a lot. I think it's very helpful. So let's look at it. Should we start with B? Behavior control.
BITE starts with B.
BITE starts with B.
I know how to spell.
BITE.
I watch Sesame Street.
Okay. Dictate where, how, and with whom the member lives and associates or isolates.
Wow. Utah?
Even, and I think that is another part of like the sinister or because that was a part.
It's a veiled sinister aspect,
right? Because that was a part of when I was looking to see what Stephen Hassan had said about like Mormonism. I found like a Reddit thread, and someone was kind of asking him like, can it still be considered a cult if it outlasts its charismatic leader?
Oh,
right? It was like a question.
Yeah,
it's like yes, it's like the ultimate
absolutely
answer.
People can of course,
right? And but I think that that's part of like this like evolution that the church has done to remain like in the zeitgeist, is that a lot of like the control aspects have become very like cultural in a sense, to where it's like you're not demanded to live in Utah, of course, but there's like this strange,
there's this understanding.
There is like so many people that are raised out of Utah go to BYU, right, when they for college, and it's just like very.
They make it to where they don't have to explicitly say it.
Right.
It's like dog whistles with racism or people say that I don't want to get into this topic, but people say, oh yeah, we don't have racism anymore in America because the KKK is not out in front of people's doors burning a cross. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot going on, and especially a lot that's baked into the culture. And I don't need to get, this is not about going through those right now, but you can do your own work on that. But
and do it.
And do that work, please. Yes. This one's on religion, but it's the same thing here, where it's not explicitly said you have to live in Utah, but it is culturally understood what Utah means.
Yeah.
The power that Utah has if you live there.
Yeah.
So there's this, and well, what am I missing out on if I don't?
Right.
There's an implicit, I'm hurting if I don't.
Yeah, and just like a condensing of just like the power of that like multi-billion-dollar business. You know what I mean? Like that's also obviously gonna kind of pull that all in.
Yeah,
I guess.
Of course.
Here's one that doesn't really apply. When, how, and with whom the member has sex.
I wonder. I don't even need to go into that.
Yeah.
All right.
They say a couple things about that.
Yeah.
I think some things.
Types of clothing and hairstyles. Yeah. The Pentecostal part of my evangelical religion. So this came out of, there's a sect called Pentecostalism that my church directly came out of, and the Word of Faith kind of came out of it. Women could only wear dresses and skirts, and they had to be a certain length. They could not wear makeup, was seen as demonic because tempting, of course, lusting, making men lust because it's the women's fault.
Oh, yeah.
There's always this joke. I mean, we even had jokes in the church that as soon as the worship would go in, the women would start bucking and bobby pins would be flying out of their hair because they had to have their hair up and bobby pins. They couldn't have their hair down. Okay. So there was always a joke that the hair would start coming down because the Holy Spirit would be hitting and they'd be dancing around.
Yeah.
Obviously, what you can wear.
Oh yeah,
clothing
Mormonism
and hairstyles.
with your garments. Garments have to be covered.
Right.
All that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep us going, George.
Keep
Come
us
on.
Going.
What else you see?
Let's see. Major times. I think this is a big one with Mormonism.
Yeah.
We've talked about the major time spent with group indoctrination and rituals and or self-indoctrination, including the internet.
Oh yeah.
So just the church has and they've kind of receded, which is another conversation we'll have later about the church's apparent, from my not super like informed or completely educated, I've tuned out from the church pretty much as I could since I left, but it seems to me that they're playing this game of trying to placate to a large number of their members who are wanting to be more like lackadaisical, and kind of cracking down, but like they can't pick a lane. That's kind of the vibe I get from them. Yeah, and so like they are like church is shorter,
trying to have their cake and eat it too. Yeah.
Church is shorter. Yeah, except for like you're supposed to still do that third hour at home on your own. It's a self-study.
So it's implied.
Yeah. No, they developed a whole like study program for you to go, because it used to be 3 hours. Now you go 2 at home at church and then 1 at home. They introduced things like family home evening.
People are picking up their phones in the middle of service, like, I gotta check on the game.
Yeah. You have like midweek for the kids. All this different. It just becomes
same. There was, first of all, there's multiple church services during the week, and of course, if you wanted to call yourself one of the people in the church who was devoted and committed, it was implied that you were there at church on Sunday night, on Wednesday. I was there on Sunday night, Wednesday, every chance I got. And then also from the pulpit, are you reading your Bible every day? Are you taking your time every morning to pray and read your Bible? Or are you looking at your phone? Of course, shame and guilt. Or are you?
My scriptures are on my phone.
My scriptures are on my phone. You should be spending that time with God. It's this indoctrination of you should be spending all of your time in this mode. To them, of course, it's a positive, but to us, we're from the outside looking in, going bite model, behavior control.
Like that in and of itself, like having a community that gets together is not always sinister.
Yeah.
Right. It's the other aspects of like behavioral.
Well,
control,
think about it. If you are a runner, you've gotten me into running. I've been a runner before. But George has pulled me into this long running.
26.2 miles.
Okay. But if all you were doing every moment of your life was running, would that be healthy? If all you were doing every moment of your life was watching videos on running and listening to running podcasts and running at the same time, I think your wife Haley would probably get pretty mad that you were not.
She hates running.
Well, first of all, she hates running. She just outright hates running. But that you're not taking care, that you're not giving her, your friends would be like, hey, we're over here. Like, what's going on, George? Something wrong here? Mm-hmm. What's going on? Why are you always running? You look emaciated. And all your friends are just the people that you're running with. I mean, people would be like, this is a cult. It's turned into a cult. That's the people talk about that with some workout groups like CrossFit, where your whole life becomes your CrossFit group, and your friends on the outside are like, what's going on?
You got to apply the bike model.
You don't have any balance in your life anymore. All you're doing is dry heaving protein,
doing swing pull-ups or whatever it is.
I did those. I've done those. But what do they call it? Is it like dry dosing, where you just take a scoop of protein powder and just
cinnamon
and
chow?
That's all your meals, and you can't even eat with your it's people in the church would be like, oh, that's too extreme. But then look at your own life, what the church is making you do. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same type of extremism. Anyways.
I've got one more from behavior control I wanted to point out. It's separation of families. I think that's a big thing. This is one
thing that I wanted to say earlier. Go ahead.
So like, I'm not going to switch back and forth between just like the church and like, the Mormon church. I'm trying to not just call it the church, because that gives it way too much power, because it's like what we called it. Just the church.
Okay.
Mormonism.
Yeah.
Sorry, Russell. I'm not going to say the church.
I mean, to me, when you say the church, it just means Christian religion.
Yeah, what I mean is Mormonism,
too.
Though.
Yes,
like that's because we call it the church, but that's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's
the way
one.
To God. The one. I mean, every church does it. That's what we called it. That's
really.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you didn't know that?
No. But yeah, so I'm not gonna like go through and delineate completely between like my time on a mission, because that was fucking bite model to a T, like all of it, all the 200.
It's full. That's full immersion. Yeah. Well, you should. I think part of this you can say where they did this, because that is interesting.
Right.
I think it's interesting to show that during the mission they did bite model every single point.
I mean, separation of families is number one.
Yeah.
You're 18/19. You never lived alone.
They take you away from everything you know.
Have to leave your home.
They control every moment of your time, what you're able to wear, your
contact. You can only email one time a week. I mean, which is like a decent amount of contact, right? But it's imposed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it was like I was an adult at that time. I should have had the ability to pick up my phone and be like, hey, Mom, can I call you?
Yeah.
Like that's insane that I didn't have that opportunity for 2 years.
Yeah.
To do something for them.
Yeah.
To get them more investors in their tithing. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Then and the separation from the family allows you to build more reliance on the church, because it is I think missions are kind of a make or break moment. So are you going to break and it, kind of get you in the church? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you going to buy into this?
Right.
Because this is a cult.
But you
better get in all the way.
But then even outside of the church, or I just did it again.
Outside of Mormonism.
But I was going to say outside of the mission.
We're going to deprogram you, George.
I know, hopefully. outside of the mission, like within Mormonism, the separation of families is also highly like utilized by the idea that families are forever. Because when you go through the temple, I don't know that we got to it exactly. Like, what Haley and I did when we were sealed, that means it's called a sealing because you're sealed on earth.
I mean, you know how silly that is when you say it, right? Okay, I just love these moments where I get to go, oh my gosh.
You're sealed on earth and in heaven.
Right.
Because we have the right power.
They put a stamp on it.
But if you live up to your covenant. Yeah, right. If you live up to your covenants. Right? So families get split up what it does is it puts a lot of pressure on parents because they're taught that if their kids don't get to the celestial kingdom, which is the highest one where you have to be married, then they did something wrong. It's on them.
Okay.
Right? And the family won't be together forever.
What a threat to tell families that they won't be together forever in heaven if they don't indoctrinate their kids to fully do what our religion tells them to do and become what we say they should become. Yep. Can you imagine being a parent?
Look at the world the way we say to.
Can you imagine being a parent and thinking and saying that to your kid or saying that about your kid, putting that on your kid that my kid is going to be given over to this church, this religion, and not make their own decisions for themselves. The church is going to make the decisions for them so that they can get into heaven. And they'll commit their lives to this church, not to themselves or their own life or their own autonomy, but to this church. And we're deciding that for you, and it's on us if you don't do it. Can you imagine being a parent and doing that to your child?
No.
I mean, I'm not trying to judge parents that do that, but that's what religion makes parents. That's what religion entices parents to do, or at least holds over their heads.
Yeah, I think that it is like. Even with separation of families, right? It's not presented as a punishment.
Yeah.
I think it's presented as this beautiful, amazing thing that we can be together.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no,
right?
It's great.
And so I think...
you're going to be so glad that you did it.
Right. In the self-deception, you just like buy into, this is so great, so great, so great.
Right.
Until something happens that, your child
until
leaves
you
or something
get a gay
you have
child.
to fit.
Until your child just says, no, I'm sorry, I can't believe in this. I don't think it's true.
Right.
So what? Because you kind of said that there's not as much excommunication of children, or at least in your experience.
Yeah,
is there?
Not like organized like a Scientology or
because Scientology they do that.
They harass you. There's not like an organized one. I think like an organized
does it happen
mandate? Oh yeah.
It happens though,
for sure. No, and
even in the evangelical church that I came from, I mean there is an amount of our kid is not following Jesus. We just have to let them go. We can't be involved with them. We can't condone their behaviors because they're not following what we think they should follow, the church that we're in. So we just got to let them go, and we don't really have much contact with our kid because they're not right with Jesus. There's an amount of that excommunication. It's very sad to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm very glad that my parents decided, no, we want Micah.
Right.
Whatever Micah is, thank you to my parents. I love you. Same. I love you, and I'm thankful for you.
Amen. To my parents and Micah's
there
parents.
You go. Why not? Amen. I'm thankful for George's parents too. That they said no. We want whatever you are.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
You're my son. You're a part of our family. We want you here. Whatever it is, we're with you.
Yeah.
And
that's not always the case.
That's not always the case.
That's my experience too.
It's so sad.
But yeah.
And that bite model. All right.
Are you ready to go on to information control?
Let's get it. Let's hit the eye.
Okay. Ooh. Information control. So This one's just a quick 6, so I'll just do like the
just a quick 6 with many subpoints.
Right, but also let's do so deception, deliberately withholding information, minimizing or discouraging access to non-cult sources of information, compartmentalizing information into outsider insider, encouraging spying on other members.
Yep.
Extensive use of cult-generated information or propaganda, and unethical use of confession.
Yes. Okay.
Mormonism checks all those boxes.
Unethical use of confession. How was that used?
I had a man when I was since the age of like 13 that would just ask me if I was masturbating for no reason.
Yeah.
Like,
and he was assigned to you from the church?
He was the bishop. He was my bishop.
Okay, and got private time. Okay,
I'd meet with him one-on-one, and I'd had to on at least an annual basis. I'd have to meet with him to get a temple recommend. So I'd have to answer 13
to be
questions.
able to get to the temple and all that stuff. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and then go eventually. I know we've talked about like.
Did you lie to him about masturbating?
Oh yeah. Well, no, actually.
Were you honest? Were you like, yeah? Buddy.
We're gonna get into a sexual. We're gonna have our sexuality podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that more. I lied to leaders all the time.
Yeah, about about whether or not you were doing that. Yeah,
right. Yeah. But I also have confessed to leaders too. Like, hey, I'm looking at porn, right? And like having that conversation and unethical confession is untrained men.
Yes.
Doing that for an entire neighborhood of people who could be confessing abuse, who could be confessing. Sorry, let me backtrack that. Not confessing, but confiding abuse.
Yeah.
Or confessing
abuse that they've committed,
right? And getting excused or having that dealt with in an unethical
say your Hail Marys
way. Yeah. Right.
And that's not you, but the Catholic Church does that for sure. I Catholic Church is. I'm sorry. You asked about the Catholic Church at the beginning. It's bite model so far.
Yeah.
Encouraging spying on other members. That was very strong in my church.
Yeah.
Yes, and I mean the pastors were people who were listening out for what people were doing, and we know. I know why they're dealing with that because they were sinning over here, and their past is pretty pretty serious and clouded, and it would be used in their to manipulate the relationships of them and other people within the church. Obvious. I mean, it's that would be they would use it to manipulate the relationships within the church, which is their whole group of people. Unethical use of confession, absolutely. My mentor, when I told him I was gay, I remember there was one time. I was already out of from that church, but he had called me, and I don't know why we were on the phone, but I remember him. I think I had said something about being gay. I had publicly said something about being gay. I think it was the first time I had publicly said something, and he called me about it. It was like, aren't you concerned? What about your relationship with this other person? They might not want to have a relationship with you anymore if they know that you're gay. And I said, are you really threatening me right now to try and keep me quiet about being gay? Are you really is that really what you're holding over my head, is that I might lose this relationship that's important to me, and to keep me quiet, to keep me silent? And he immediately shut up because he knew that he had misstepped. But he didn't even, I don't even know if it registered until I said it, that he was doing that. Yeah. But it is inherent in where I grew up in. Absolutely. Deception.
This is huge. So
okay,
Mormonism, this is huge.
Which one?
Deception. Deliberate withholding of information, distortion of information.
Well, the temple.
Well, even before that.
Okay, keep going.
Joseph Smith's whole story was presented to us in such a different way. So one big piece, there's so much of it, but one big piece that I didn't know until I left the church, and I think has become, with internet and everything else, has become more the church has had to incorporate this into their lore now. But for a long time, So the idea, right, is Joseph found golden plates in a field, who's led to them by God and an angel, and that he translated them. And it's this history, right? And we were also always taught that he had translators, that he had people that he would read the plates to. So he would like read the plates, and it was for a while as a guy named Oliver, and then his wife did it for a little while. Like a few people were his scribes. And we had pictures that would show like a sheet, and then Joseph on one side with the golden plates, and the other people on the other side. That's not what the history of the church says. What he actually did, what's recorded, is that he stuck his face into a hat and read a shining rock that told him. He didn't even look at the plates. Like, that is such a different story. That I was never like, and no one could deny that I was never told that story. Why are you not telling people that story?
Why not?
It's because it's ridiculous. It's unbelievable. I also was never taught that Joseph Smith was a professional, like a semi-amateur treasure hunter. He was a con man prior to finding the plates.
They control the information.
All that's withheld, and the stuff that contains the actual information is deemed not historical or factual.
Well, like allow only leadership to decide who needs to know what and when.
Yes, exactly.
I can give you so many. In not only that, in conjecture with unethical use of confession, and I know that the church that I came from, and this is not my story, so I don't name names, but fully, well, first of all, well, no, I can tell I guess I can tell a story that's directly me, and I'll tell another one later, but when I had found out that one of the leaders, my mentor, was watching porn, gay porn, he took it on himself to decide to tell me that he was going to tell the pastor. Now, I never got any verification of this. I never got any, nobody, there was never talked to about it again, but he's like, I'll tell him and don't worry about it. And I'm sorry, it'll never happen again. First of all, I know it was happening again. But second of all, I'm pretty sure he never told him. Yeah. And so it's like this controlling of information. Like, I'm never going to get found out because I control who knows what. I also know that same church harbors a sex abuser. I know that from the abused who has told me what has happened, and they know that. And they decide, well, nobody really needs to know that.
They take power.
The church doesn't need to know that. That person is on the stage every week. And they feel like the church doesn't need to know that this person has sexually abused people. So there's that. All right.
There's that. On to T?
T.
Thoughts. Yeah, I mean, number 2, change person's name and identity.
Aaron.
It's more of a password than a name. If we're getting down to the practicality of what it's for.
It falls under thought control for sure. Require members to internalize the group's doctrine as truth. That would be every single religion.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a copy and paste, right? We've figured it out. You just need to figure it out.
Yeah.
You just need to figure out what we figured out.
Yeah. Adopting the group's map of reality as reality. God created the world in 6 days, and the earth is only 6,000 years old instead of what we know, that it's billions of years old.
Were you ever like in... I feel like this would happen... It probably happened like 2 to 3 times. I always think about... Let me backtrack. I always think about the fact that there really isn't that much with religion to talk about, but they have to keep talking. Like, it's all been said. Like, in the Mormon church, they get together twice a year for general conference, and those dudes spend so much time saying nothing at all.
Of course.
Nothing.
The videos are popping up on my feed now all the time.
the way they can string together these words that don't mean anything.
I know. It's a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
I am going to be fully immersed in Mormonism by the time this podcast is through.
Yeah.
But someone say a prayer for me.
Pray to Mormon God.
Yeah.
But that said, on top of that, we have like Sunday school and you're just like trying to make things to talk about. And I feel like every once in a while, someone would be like, you know what? I like to direct all my thoughts as a prayer to God.
What? I'm sorry, say that again?
To direct all my thoughts as a prayer to God.
Oh, yeah. Every single thought I have.
Every single
full thought control.
I say amen after.
Oh, my.
I feel like that's something that would get thrown out every once in a while.
I'd like a glass of milk right now.
Amen. Amen me.
Amen me. Time for a nap. Amen. Yeah. Well, I can get behind that one.
Completely. And like thoughts, things about like, you know, when you're tempted, just sing a hymn. Just sing a hymn.
The correlations between that and my church is just so. I mean, it's because they're cults.
Yes.
Instill black and white thinking.
Yep.
We already talked about this last week. Decide between good versus evil. We talked about this last week. Organize people into us versus them. We talked about this last week. It's right there.
Yeah. Hypnotic techniques. We've talked about that.
Hypnotic techniques are used to alter mental states, undermine critical thinking, and even to age regress the member. This is what I've been saying. That's exactly what the church, that my church that I came from does. Literally that sentence. Hypnotic techniques are used to alter mental states, undermine critical thinking, and even to age regress the member.
This one's really interesting to me. The memories are manipulated and false memories are created.
Yeah.
I did this to myself, right?
Like I would. Yeah.
And this was me
trying. This is very real.
Like trying to have the experiences I thought everyone else was having. And so I would repackage my experience.
Yes.
Like I repackaged my grandma's death.
Yeah.
Right?
Your grandma's death for your mission.
Right. As this spiritual experience that I tried
tell
to.
Yourself
I was trying
it's true.
to.
Yeah.
And like honestly, I think I mentioned a story on my mission where I prayed, and like a couple of days later, somebody said that like we were an answer to their prayer. I don't know if that is a true story.
Yeah.
Like to be honest.
Yeah. Well, testimonies are a way of doing that.
For sure.
I have noticed, even in my own experience, it teaches you to find a way to repackage it into God did it.
Yes.
And then believe it, and then tell other people so they'll believe. That there's the whole idea of giving a testimony, which is in my church, but more common in yours because you were supposed to give one every
every fucking chance you got.
Give that.
But
testimony.
They had a monthly meeting.
Yeah.
They had a monthly. I mean, like
so it teaches you to
repackage
repackage your memories into God. I can make that fit into God did it. I feel good about that. Yeah.
Right, yes.
It must have been God.
And that will get rewarded.
Yes.
Right. That will.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm getting tears this Sunday.
Encourage only good and proper thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus did that. Jesus had thought control. That's one of the sinister things about Jesus that I find a great problem with. And we'll go through that. That's a whole other episode of how sinister I think Jesus is. And I know you're like, Jesus? The Jesus? Yep. We're coming for Jesus too.
No one's safe. We're gonna turn into like more like AM radio like disc jockeys.
Jesus. I don't even know. Just make noise. All right. Keep going down the list. What do we got?
I think.
Teaching thought-stopping techniques.
Yes.
Which we've talked about, which shut down reality testing by stopping negative thoughts and allowing only positive thoughts, including denial, rationalization, justification, wishful thinking. Wishful thinking. That's literally the whole Christian religion is wish thinking.
Yeah. I mean, and going to stop
the
thoughts.
The idea of heaven, the idea of the Holy Spirit is guiding me is wish thinking. The idea of God is going to bless me if I make this right combination of moves or prayers or living my life a certain way, God is going to start raining blessings on me. That's wish thinking. Wish thinking is prayer to God. That's like, will God give me this, or God heal me of this? Chanting, meditating, praying, speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues is a great one. We did speaking in tongues. Autoglossolia, I believe. Autoglossolia, I believe, is what it's called. Speaking in tongues. Yes, absolutely. If the devil is attacking you, which is usually a devil's attacking your thoughts, right? Because if you're having it, if your thoughts are not in line with God, start praying in tongues. That'll fix it. It's right here on the list, y'all. What this does is it does stop your thoughts and your ability to process reality.
Yes. I mean, I even just like going back to, I think these all interact, right? Like information control. Like I had an experience when I was young where I came across I may have already mentioned this sometime, but a little blurb in the newspaper, a paragraph about Joseph Smith being found out that polygamy came because he was found with another woman. Yeah. Not because he was inspired by God. Yeah. And I read that and like immediately threw it down, turned away. Yep. And then for the next 10 years, Satan would bring that to my mind. Oh, Satan brought test it back me, up. And I would need to sing a hymn so that I wouldn't think about it. 100%.
So good. Good.
It's exactly this. That's.
Is the devil tempting you to masturbate? Start singing to Jesus or praying in tongues. Young sir, yes, sir. Young ma'am. And we forget that women.
yes, they do. Sexual health, everyone.
Sexual health, everybody. Sexual health. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right. No, if it's gotten into the area of addiction, we're not here for therapy and to tell you what's right and wrong. But if it's taking over your life and you're in the area of addiction, you can get help. You can talk to somebody. Yes. Not someone in your church.
Yes.
I mean...
And you don't have to shame yourself. You're not broken. You're not wrong. You're not dirty. You're not gross. You're a human being developing with sexual desires and everything else. And you can work through that shame. It's okay. That's step one.
Therapist George said it's okay. Well, we just wanted to give that disclaimer there. I love the reason I bring up masturbation so much is because the church is obsessed with it. Yes. Obsessed with it so much to the point, and we'll talk about this. Well, anyway, we'll talk about it. Okay.
Emotional control. Should we go on?
Hold on. Let me just read the rest because I wanted to see. Instill new map of reality. Yeah. Wow. I mean, how many points can we do for that one? 100.
Above 9,000.
The church gave a map of reality about how the world was created. Which we know is wrong. That the earth was created before the sun. We know that the sun existed long before the earth did. All right. The Bible got that wrong. Bible got a lot of wrong about the creation story. Obviously, we're not from dirt. I mean, some people see that as a metaphor because, we're, from the bacteria all the way up into the human being. But the churches that I came from believe that God literally molded it out of dirt and blew life into it. Obviously, that's a new map of reality about the apocalypse and this death cult idea that the world is coming to an end. And not only, but they've used it every decade, especially since my parents have been born. I know at least that Jesus is coming. Well, since Jesus, because Jesus said he was coming back.
Yeah. He kind of set us up for that.
From immediately from before his death, or from immediately after his death, where they thought that they would live to see Jesus come back. Every generation has had this map of reality. This is the end of the world. God's coming back for us. We're going to be into heaven in this new earth, and just hasn't happened yet, y'all.
Yeah. and even beyond the specifics, I think just like broadly and generally, a perspective of reality as more organized than it is. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think the Illuminati shit, all that type of attitude that. Things that are random and are occurring because time is propelling forward are actually organized either for or against a certain
Right.
thing,
Well,
right?
there's the creative design idea, right? That we are that all of this was created with thoughtful design rather than it happened by chance. The male nipples were designed specifically for you to have for sexual pleasure, I guess, which is, I mean, great. But your genitals, which
You kind of talked yourself into that.
I did. I'm sorry.
Okay, never mind.
I was thinking about the not the gallbladder, the appendix. The appendix, which we don't need anymore, which is from a
far less useful than male nipples. So.
Right. Male nipples are still useful, y'all. If you didn't know that, now you know. We're putting explicit on this one. Well, I mean, even like, but yeah, your appendix that is it has an older evolutionary use, but is no longer need for use.
It's a test.
It's a test. It's there to test you. The way so many things. Or I guess what I don't need to keep going, but because there's other things I want to talk about here.
Yeah.
We don't need to, but that's enough.
Okay,
that's enough.
Yeah.
But just this new mapping of reality. Forbid critical questions about the leader, the doctrine, or the policy aloud. I don't even need to go into that. That's obvious.
Yeah.
You cannot criticize religion. You cannot have questions that are critical of God. Don't test God. Mm-hmm. If you do, you have to go to God about them.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work.
And you definitely can't be critical. I mean, you can't be critical of it, whatever it is. It gets shut down, and that's just the devil trying to tempt you.
Yeah. It's like they say in Mormonism a lot, or I've heard, I guess, ex-Mormons say it. Mormons wouldn't say it.
It's seen as evil.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can't be critical of the prophet that's alive.
Yeah.
But you can be critical of, like, the old ones to a point.
Right.
Like, it's somewhat a little more, you can be like, oh yeah, like racism was bad. Like you can say that.
Sure.
You still have to say they were holy men that like were chosen by God, but you can kind of like whatever.
Kind of get around it, skirt around it.
I mean, I guess maybe not everywhere. That might be a limited experience.
But I mean, if I'm critical of the temple
current,
now, if I'm critical of the prophets now, of course it won't fly. Labeling alternative belief systems as illegitimate, evil, or not useful.
Yep.
Obvious. That's if you're in it, you know exactly what that is. All right, emotional control.
Let's do it. We've talked pretty heavily, I think, about the emotional control.
Well, sure. Yeah, and that's why I wanted thought control on there because I have so many thoughts about it. But I just found myself running into stopping myself because there's just so many times. There's so many things I'm going to keep saying throughout many more podcasts. So we'll be fine. Keep going.
Let's see. Feelings of guilt and unworthiness. That's baked in. It's all about. That's what it is.
That is inherent in you are born unclean. Yeah. You are born sick and ordered to be well by accepting Jesus and then loving. You are forced to accept this doctrine, this idea, whatever it is. You are born sick and unclean and unwell, and it's only through our answers that you can be saved.
Yep.
Creating the problem and so that you can be the solution.
So that you can be the solution. Absolutely.
But and shaming people.
Yeah.
For that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Manipulate and narrow the range of feelings, marking some as like evil, wrong, selfish.
Yeah.
I think
because they feel a certain way or because they have a full range of emotions, that's wrong. I can't feel my full range of human emotions. I have to only feel joy and happiness. And if it's sadness, it's only with the understanding that God's in control.
Right.
With the understanding that I can't be sad about my loved ones passing away, but only with the understanding that I'm going to see them again in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Feel what we want you to feel when we want you to feel.
Yes, right? yes. And that's so obvious through what we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. And it's I always find like so much of this so interesting when it is, how to say it? When everyone experiencing that are not like taking advantage of that, if that makes sense. Like it's just like a fact of the experience. How do I say it? Pretty much that there's not like a like we've talked, like there's not always like a sinister manipulative person that's up there like, okay, everyone needs to feel like in like I'm thinking more granular in like a one congregation. There's not necessarily like one guy up there that's like, okay, they can only feel this way now.
No,
right?
I mean usually that guy up there is doing it to themselves as well.
It's this environment
baked into this culture. Yes, and the Bible.
And you end up everyone's doing it to each other, and they don't even.
It's not just the people of these religions, it's the religion itself is based on this. That's my main. I mean, if I can talk all day about how the people in the church have done things and do things that are wrong, but what really matters is that the text, the original text that makes up the religion, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Bible, the Book of Mormon, they're the ones that make this culture, that make these edicts, that make this all possible. It's wrong from the core.
Yeah.
The shame of that you're born into sin is directly from the Bible.
Yeah.
That God created us and we didn't live up to whatever expectation, and his perfect plan was that we were going to suffer so that he could tell a good story. Cancer, child cancer, worms that eat out children's eyes and makes them blind. The things that humans have been through, the diseases, plagues, not just what humans have done to each other, but what the natural world has done to humans. Humans, back 100,000 years ago, when they were when the first humans were coming about, if some say it's a quarter of a million years ago, but even 100,000, I'll take 100,000. Many of them died of disease of the teeth because they were so poorly evolved. We have dentists now to prevent that, but because it's right here, that's why it's so serious. Your tooth health is so serious because if you get an infection, it goes right to your brain.
Right.
Painful, horrible deaths. Often that's how they died, early humans, was because of their teeth, because their teeth got infected and disease, and then viruses, disease, like amoebas that ate your eyes out, things like that. Also, God could tell his story. He's like, no, don't worry, guys. I'm telling a really cool story. It's like the greatest story ever told. I'm sorry. That is a horrible, evil God. That is a horrible, evil idea of a God. But it's baked in. That's baked into the religion. And
it all stems from that. Yeah.
Instill fear, such as fear of thinking independently. Of course. I mean, what I'm doing right now is probably the worst thing anyone who's been devoted in the church can do, is to lead the religion and think independently. And then not only that, think and come at it from the outside and say, hey, let me tell you this is wrong. And let me tell you why this religion is not true. The fear of the outside world. When I said I was moving to California, the amount of people that told me that that people who were possessed by the devil were out here, and that it was full of evil people who were going to, watch out, watch your back everywhere you go, because the people out there are evil. I'm like, you've never been outside of this state. How do you even know who these people are?
Yeah. The number of people that would say similar things when I went to grad school was like, because I had already
fear of the outside world.
I was like, what? Okay. But very much the same energy.
It's so asinine. Grown adults.
Oh, no. These were my... Yeah, these were people.
Grown adults. Like people in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yes. retired people
Yeah.
who lived an entire life.
Who lived an entire
and moved
life.
through an entire world.
And still think that those people in that far off land are some evil caricature of a human.
Because they have been indoctrinated to believe that, to think, to not
fear of losing one's salvation, that
Right.
I was going to lose my salvation out here, which I did.
So they were right. We can throw them a bone here or there. I mean,
yes, it's funny. I mean, I went up into a cabin and just fully self-reflected. I wasn't going to Church of Satan and being indoctrinated into not believing in God.
Right.
But
you were listening to yourself.
I'm sure they could. Oh well, I was thinking independently, which they didn't. Which they know that Californians out here do, right? Losing one's salvation, fear of losing one's salvation, leaving or being shunned by the group. Mormonism, it's obviously there.
And
with
the next
me,
one is
there.
others' disapproval, which for me those relate super closely, right? That kept me in the church for 7 years.
Like I said, my mentor holding it over my head.
6
Well, if you say you're gay, this person that you really respect and love, they might not approve of you anymore, might not want be involved with you anymore, and I know you really respect and love them, and they
what's that relationship going to be
want
like?
that to happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see.
Extremes of emotional highs and lows.
Love
worship
bombing.
service.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to get you in that state of emotional volatility. Love bombing and praise one moment, and then declaring you are a horrible sinner. Okay. Ritualistic and sometimes public confession of sins. It happens plenty of times. Phobia, indoctrination, inculcating irrational fears. The devil is around every corner. Mm-hmm. This is, now they'll tell you, we don't believe the devil's around every corner, but we just need to be aware that the devil's out there.
Yeah.
That the devil is alive, and the devil is is out there, and we do have an enemy, and that enemy is real.
Yeah.
They're telling you the devil, a made up entity, is real, and that because people have taken it so into irrational fears, they try to curb that, but they know what they're saying.
Oh yeah, Marlene Winnell that we've talked about. She says that ultimately it boils down to kind of two banks, I guess, that they leave you with, being that you're not okay. So like original sin, you're dirty, you're broken, you're all those things, and you're not safe, right? The world's coming to an end, all A, B, and C. And those are the things that a lot of us who have been through religion and come out of it may unconsciously carry, is a feeling that I'm not okay, I'm not safe.
The fear of hell. If there's the fear of some things I said, demon possession, incurable diseases.
Did you ever observe any demon possessions?
No. And the people that talked about demon possession, I was like, that's just a mentally ill person. Which they used to believe that mentally ill people were demon possessed. I mean, it's obvious how a natural explanation can really just do away with the need for the supernatural one. You really don't have to invent demons to just go, hey, maybe there's just a mentally ill person who needs some help.
Oh, yeah. I expelled a demon one time.
Oh, did you?
I truly did. I don't want to...
let's get that confession. I want to get that. I want to hear that story on a different one.
Okay. It might be anticlimactic, so don't get
Yeah. But we'll get it on a different one. I think because I'll keep that in the back of my mind. I like that. Never a legitimate reason to leave. Those who leave are weak, undisciplined, unspiritual, worldly, brainwashed, seduced by money, sex, or rock and roll. We've already talked about this.
Which one was it for you? For me, it was rock and roll.
I mean, rock and roll is so badass. I mean, it's so much fun. I literally what's better than rock and roll? Come on. Threats of harm to ex-member and family, obviously. Yes. There's the bite model. Yes, I do think just about every religion would fall under that bite model. You can see it. I mean, judge for yourself. We listed off there. We didn't even list off all the things, but I think it definitely follows the Bite model.
Yeah.
Religion is made to be that way.
And it goes back to, there's a reason it's still around. There's a reason these attitudes come. Is like you develop these methods that will outlast us mortals, right? That will keep going and keep churning out more people.
Right. These ways of manipulating the human mind.
Yeah.
That is an animal mind that is evolved. We've got reasoning capabilities, but if they can convince you not to use them, then they can control this more primitive mind to be controlled and reactionary and basically ready to be indoctrinated. Now, the thing is, and they teach you not to trust your own thoughts, not to trust your own mind, because without God's the one you trust. Don't trust whatever's coming in here. Right. You're a fallen
Your job
enemy.
is to get yourself out of the way.
Get yourself out of the way. And I'll say that a million times because it needs to be said and said and said and said.
Yes.
Now, you don't want to come out of religion and just fear of being indoctrinated and everything, but it's a good way to be aware of what's happening. And then you see around you how many people are trying to do that to get you to buy their thing, to live the lifestyle of what they want you to. I don't know. There's so many things.
Yeah.
So many ways that people try to take advantage of other people through this model.
There is a handbook that cult leaders use.
Yes.
I don't know how they get a hold of it, probably just observing each other.
Yeah.
And so for us non-cult leaders, it's good to kind of know what the cookbook is.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
to know what's going
for
on.
us not yet cult leaders.
We're all just potential cult leaders, really.
I'm not going to say that one day I'm going to be a cult leader, but no, I just we have yet to know. We do not know yet if I'm being too cavalier with my I'm triggering the religious people right now too many times today, saying I worship Satan and then I'm going to be a cult leader. And that I was seduced by rock and roll. But hopefully people understand sarcasm.
I don't know anymore. I've that show we were on, Haley and I, we were on a TV show. We'll talk about it more.
I don't know if you've mentioned that in the podcast yet, but yeah.
My wife Haley and I were on a show called Teenage Newlyweds.
Yes.
About young marriage, and we went on it to get $10,000 and to spread the church's message. We were in the church magazine and shit. But
of course.
One time, the reason I'm talking about this now, and we may do like a rewatch. I think it'd be really funny because there's like.
Yeah, we need to talk about it on this podcast with your permission.
Yeah, they were there on our honeymoon night, and we talked about sex and all this stuff. So
wow, really? My God!
It's a cringy. Yeah, it's cringy as hell. But one time we were reading comments on something, and somebody commented about me that they thought I was a future cult leader. So
I can see it.
Here we are.
I
mean,
I
am not.
I could definitely be one of your deacons for sure. I know there's some charisma in there that we can use, and then we'll bring out brother George in your turtleneck and your.
This is what I'll do.
It's so good. I'll be your hype man. I'll be like, let's go, brother George. Oh, thank you, brothers and sisters. Okay, well, that's great.
After all this, I believe that Mormonism is a cult.
It is. And we're going to keep exploring the ways that is true. Mm-hmm. And not even that, just it does. We don't even have to keep calling it. We don't even have to keep harping on that point. But it's good to recognize it.
Yeah, it's like, it goes back to semantics. Like, ultimately, like, if you cringe at that, and if like really, if somebody that I really care about, like, were to hear that and be like, George, like, that's messed up. Like, let's talk about it. Like, I'm not like,
here you go.
I'm not going to die on this hill that like it's a cult, but like, let's talk about all of this, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about all these things that exist that don't exist in any other that you wouldn't want existing in any other facet of your life. And if you became aware of them, you would want to change, right? But we can't say that about religion. We can't say that about Mormonism. And so that's what makes me say that. But like, yeah, I'm open to a conversation. I'm not stuck to the semantics of it. Like, that's not what's important. It's the way that it is affecting like what you said earlier, right? Affecting society as a whole, and what I believe negatively affecting more individuals than it is helping. Yeah. In like the grand scheme of things.
Yep. Amen. All right.
But thank you for we'll end this. Thank you for your feedback and not like not telling me I'm wrong or like anything like that. I never feel that energy from you. I really appreciate it. I do really like obviously like respect your opinions and like your perspectives. I learn a lot from them, and just a lot of the way you framed things tonight was really helpful for me. So I hope it's helpful for everybody.
Awesome. Well, I respect you and your opinions too, George.
Thanks.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to hear what you have to say. It's been so good so far.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. I think that's a good point to end on. All right, this has been our latest episode of I Lost My Faith and All I Got Was This Podcast. Are you in a cult? Well, tell us. Let us know. Does your religion or the religion you came from follow the BITE model? I'm very curious. Yeah. I want to know because
or anything else in your life.
Or anything else in your life, too. That's a good
point. Take a look at it.
Hey. All right. Maybe get some surprise thoughts on that. All right. Yeah. We'll see you next time. All right.
Cheers.